Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks hands-on, in-person technology education in Durham, North Carolina. Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We have a class coming up on web AI and web scraping next week. We have more classes coming up. If you're interested, take a look at the schedule at silicondojo.com. Do remember, free to the user is not actually free. That's why I shake the brain nips every day. If you want to throw some money to help support the project, there is a donor box link down below. And with that, I do just want to ask, I will ask this question one last time since I've got the China people watching. Namaste, dear China people. Here's my question for the China people out there. What is it that you have with China cabinets? Is China cabinet a euphemism for something? Does China cabinet mean words that I don't realize they mean? I've been getting all these comments whenever I do videos talking about China. Lately, I've been getting these comments about people talking about my China cabinet behind me. They're like, oh, look at you, big American, with your fancy China cabinet. And I'm like, they're crappy IKEA shelves. Do you not have shelves in China? Have we been focusing on the wrong things in this whole, war with China? Maybe you all can put a rover on the dark side of the moon, but you haven't figured out a place to put your books and your knickknacks. Is that how it works? Right? It's like the Aztecs. The Aztecs figured out zero, but not wheels. The China people figure out how to put a rover on the far side of the moon, but they haven't figured out shelving units? I don't know. Dear China people, could you please tell me what the fuck you're talking about when you keep being very snarky about my China cabinet? I don't know. Anyways, the weird thing when you get trolls from other cultures. I feel like I need a book. That's how not boomer I am. That's how Gen X I am. I feel like I need a book just so I can understand what the trolling is. It's like, don't stop trolling. Oh, your trolling is valuable too. I have no idea what the fuck you people are talking about. But anyways, so if you're a China person, please, oh please, tell me what the hell people are talking about with this whole China cabinet thing. And with that, let's get to why you're actually here talking about the EU. Because, what is it? The mark of stupidity or idiocy, doing the same thing and expecting different results. Yeah, that's Europe. That's Europe. Wow. Hey, you remember what happened with Nexperia? Like yesterday? You know how that whole Nexperia thing is still going very badly for Europe? Well, Europe's like, hey, if we can do that for Nexperia, why don't we do that for Huawei and ZTE too? So this is, I don't know, interesting. It's so weird with this whole anti-China thing in the Western world. Because it's like, we want to buy stuff, but we don't want to buy stuff. We want to decouple, but we still want their things. It's like this, I don't get it. Anyways, so this is the latest thing coming out of Europe. EU set to crack down on Huawei ZTE hardware in member countries. Because, that's a thing that's going on right now. So basically the idea is that Huawei and ZTE hardware, networking hardware, 5G hardware, that type of thing, is somehow vulnerable because of Huawei and ZTE's connections to the Chinese government, right? I don't know. That's the argument that is out there, right? So in the United States, we banned Huawei equipment for a while. There was a whole rip and replace program for a few years there. In Europe, again, Europe isn't Europe. Europe's the EU. It's a European bloc. It's actually truly these different countries, so they have to figure out their own rules. So they put in like this whole plan, and what do they call it? They put in a toolbox of recommendations. They put in a toolbox of recommendations back in like 2020. Basically, the idea is like, our recommendation is to rip out Huawei equipment. And then some countries did rip out Huawei equipment, and other countries didn't rip out Huawei equipment. Now, I mean, since we've seen Europe's vulnerability to China after the Nexperia debacle, now it seems that they're going to be pushing, trying to push and do a mandate across the board in the European bloc to get rid of Huawei and ZTE equipment. Now, the interesting thing with this is it's just, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? How is this more vulnerable than anything else? Can't the vulnerabilities be mitigated, again, by better architecture and that type of thing? Instead of getting any of that kind of crap, we're just getting the whole anti-China man. Yet some more. The European Commission is looking to go further on its bid to remove Huawei and ZTE telecoms networks from its member states. Vice President Hinna Virkkunen has tabled a proposal to make 2020 5G cybersecurity toolbox recommendations legally binding and could extend beyond just mobile networks to include fixed-line broadband and fiber networks in EU member countries too. So think about this, right? So basically, this toolbox of recommendations came out in 2020, and it's recommendations. They now want to make this legally binding. Why this can be a problem, again, for a lot of IT professionals, is you get into this whole disaster of rip and replace. So they're talking about not just mobile networks. So most of us don't work on mobile networks. Again, some of you probably do. Most of us don't. But again, fixed line is fiber optic lines, carrier grade, Ethernet, those types of things. And so it looks like they want to rip and replace that type of equipment too. What becomes very interesting with this type of thing is it's not simply ripping and replacing, right? It's not like you just simply pull out the Huawei switch and slap in a Cisco switch or something like that, right? You have management infrastructure. I talk about the whole concept in the IT world of a single pane of glass, and the idea with a single pane of glass is I should be able to come in and look at my really big computer screen and have one panel that shows me what's going on with the network, right? What is the latency? What are the times? What routers are up? What routers are down? What paths are up? What paths are down? All of that kind of thing, right? And those kind of dashboards and that kind of management infrastructure is basically designed and built for the equipment that you've installed, right? Cisco has their own APIs and their own ways of interacting with their networking equipment. I'm sure Huawei has theirs. All these different companies, they have their own ways of managing systems. So not only as an IT professional do you have to worry about the actual going out and ripping and replacing your equipment, the normal configurations, but you also have to figure out how are you going to be managing that at scale, right? A lot of our networking infrastructure right now is an at-scale thing, right? You have networking equipment spread all the fuck over your geography, and you remotely access that equipment for updates and management and all of that kind of stuff. So not only do you have to go out and actually redeploy equipment, but then you actually have to make sure that the overall systems that you put in place will be robust and do the things that you need them to do, and that's going to be a major concern. It's also going to be a hell of a lot of cost. It's going to be very, very expensive. And the development comes despite many countries having already enacted such changes. Sweden banned Huawei and ZTE from its 5G networks in 2020. The UK has done the same, and Germany plans removal from its 5G core networks by 2026. The UK has framed the removal of Huawei technology as a supply chain necessity. And this is interesting. Quote, the security of the company's products can no longer be managed due to the impact of US sanctions on its supply chain. Isn't that interesting? Well, see, you could buy Huawei equipment, but here's the deal. We're gonna kneecap Huawei's supply chain. So do you want to buy Cisco equipment that doesn't have a kneecap supply chain, or Huawei's equipment that has a kneecap supply chain? Which again is like one of these really screwed up things with what the United States is doing. In October 2022, an immediate ban on new Huawei 5G installations was enforced with the removal of existing equipment mandated by 2027. Quote, we must have confidence in the security of our phone and internet networks, which underpin so much of our economy and everyday lives, former Digital Secretary Michelle Donnellan commented. Beyond existing bans, Italy also reviews deals with Chinese firms individually, while Spain and Italy still allow the company to operate within its networks. Slovenia took this one step further by rejecting a bill that would exclude high-risk vendors. Traditional Western rivals such as Nokia and Ericsson have struggled to compete on price against Chinese firms due to the way they get partial funding from state backing. The state backing has some policymakers concerned about potential espionage threats and other risks associated with ongoing geopolitical and technological battles. Also, remember with this, whenever they talk about China man being bad, remember our NSA, right? Cisco networking equipment was going from the distributor to the final end user. NSA intercepted that equipment, opened the packaging, opened the physical devices themselves, modified the physical devices while they were in transit, sealed everything the fuck back up, and shipped it on to the end user. So again, when you start talking about things like espionage and threats, one of the things you should be really considering here is how do you design your architecture in such a way to mitigate threats from anybody, right? Whether it's from China, whether it's from the NSA, whether it's from the mafia, whether it's from a dumbass, right? You should be building your infrastructure in such a way that there is no single point of failure. As I talk about, you should be able to put on a billboard the global system administrator in the Windows world. It's called a global system administrator for the entire domain. You should be able to put the username and password on a fucking billboard right outside of New York City, and your systems should still be secure, right? If you design your systems in such a way, even if individual components have vulnerabilities, the overall system should remain secure, right? And that's the whole thing. Like if there's no way to remotely access into your system, so if somebody has a global system administrator or whatever, if there's no way to VPN into your systems, there's no way to access what's going on. If you have other intrusion detection and all that kind of stuff, there's no way to do anything with it. And that's one of the frustrating things here, right? Instead of forcing us to design our infrastructure based off of zero trust environments, and that's what we need to build our infrastructure based off of, zero trust. None of the systems trust any of the other fucking systems. The entire architecture of the systems that are being created is zero trust. Nothing actually trusts anything else, and it doesn't need to trust anything else because everything's been designed in such a way that trust doesn't need to exist, right? Instead of building for that, we're getting this whole rip and replace, right? Because that's good for our companies, right? Hey, if you're ripping out Huawei, then you got to buy Nokia, you got to buy Cisco. And this is one of my concerns too, with America getting a 10% equity stake in Intel. Right now, it is in Trump's best interest to force more people to buy Intel hardware. One of the ways you get more people to buy Intel hardware is basically to make other people's hardware illegal. Right? If you like we talk about refresh cycles, and refresh cycles have been getting longer and longer and longer, right? When I started my career 25 years ago, a refresh cycle was 2 to 3 years on equipment. Now with a lot of equipment, honestly, a lot of equipment, you could probably have a 10-year refresh cycle, right? How do you boost Intel's sales as refresh cycles are getting longer and longer and longer? Well, what happens if you force a refresh cycle, right? That perfectly fine equipment that is doing the job it was intended to do, you have to rip and replace it because it's no longer legal, right? That's an easy way to try to boost, Intel's performance. The EU 5G cybersecurity toolbox was positioned as a framework of strategic and technical measures to strengthen network security in 2020, with recommendations including restrictions, installation bans, and supplier diversification. But discussion seems to have reopened about this topic following a clear divide in national approaches rather than unified European collaboration. So anyways, this is the latest. This is the latest thing. So the West fights back against China. How dare you? How dare you sell us products at reasonable prices? That's the problem with China, man. He's selling us really good products at really good prices. We just can't accept that shit any longer. Just can't accept that. Anyways, so we will see how this continues. What is curious here is just this. Just this mash, just this weird. Like there doesn't seem to be a strategy. There doesn't seem to be a real policy. There's nothing here as a technology professional I can say, okay, I understand the plan, right? If you have a plan, sometimes there are good plans, sometimes there are bad plans. Sometimes there's good plans that work, or there are good plans that fail, and sometimes there's bad plans that work, right? Again, if you have a plan, if you put a plan on the table and you say, this is our technological roadmap, this is the plan. Then we can all sit there and we can all talk about it, we can all argue about it, and we can figure out what the hell we feel. The problem that I have with the West right now, again, really pushed by the United States, really pushed by the United States, but also with Europe, is there doesn't seem to be like an actual plan here. They know they hate Chinaman, right? They know in their dark-hearted hearts that they just cannot tolerate Chinaman pretending to be a real person. But beyond that, there doesn't really seem to be like a lot more of an actual viable plan. I've talked about this with the United States, right? We're not putting more money into vocational programs. We're not putting more emphasis on zoning requirements. There's all this kind of stuff that we need for reindustrialization. Like it or hate it, right? You might be against it, but it's like, here's the plan for reindustrialization, right? We're not seeing that. We're seeing Chinaman bad. I'm not seeing that path forward though for the United States. And I feel like that's the same thing like with Europe now is, yeah, they're just putting out all these policies, and we'll see where it falls at the end of the day. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the EU cracking down on that wascally Huawei and ZTE hardware? How dare they sell us quality products at a reasonable price? What do you think about this? Just in the continued geopolitical idiocy, how do you feel? How do you feel about this as a technology professional? Like thinking about that. Think about, you know, that's the thing. Like in the technology world, look, we got to do 16-hour days, and sometimes we got to do 30-day months. Sometimes we got to do a couple of 30-day months in a row, right? But again, if you're building out a startup company because you think you're going to get equity, or you believe in an idea, or all that kind of stuff, right? It's hard, it's difficult all the way around, but you can get the motivation there. I mean, what if you're a technology professional and you're expected to go all around the country or all around the continent, literally just ripping and replacing equipment? That's fine. That's fine. You should never see this equipment again while you work for your company, right? It got installed, the remote access works properly. Basically, it should just keep doing its thing, right? Long into the future. But instead, you're going to be away from family. You're going to be doing overtime work. You're going to be going through all of that stress, doing all of these deployments that are going to go poorly, right? This is a forced migration. As I've said before, the worst thing in the world is migrations, right? The easiest thing in the world is initial deployments, right? Past that, then you get to upgrades. Upgrades kind of suck. But migrations are just brutal, right? Because as you're installing equipment, all technology has its quirk, right? Whether it's Chinese, whether it's American, whether it's Cisco, whether it's Huawei, all the shit's got their quirks, right? But that's the thing, right? As you're doing the initial build out, as you're doing the upgrades, you know the quirks. You have an institutional knowledge to what the quirks are. Even if a new technician comes in, they can call somebody and say, hey, I'm getting this error code, I'm getting this problem. And they're like, oh yeah, that's what happens when a wolf, you know, barks at 3 o'clock in the morning. Just go find the wolf and shoot it. Like, what? What the fuck does that have to do with routers? I don't know what it has to do with a router. All we know is every time a wolf barked at 3 o'clock in the morning, the network equipment restarted. So we went out, some motherfucker shot the wolf, and after that, all the equipment worked perfectly. Yeah. Okay. Grab a shotgun, let's go hunt some wolves, right? But that's the thing, right? Like everything has weird fucking quirks. And so now you're being forced to deploy new equipment with a whole new set of quirks just because of the politicians in office can't come up with real fucking policies to actually protect the country. And to realize all this time you're spending away from home, all this stress you're going through, all of the rest of it, right, isn't going to do a fucking thing about fucking security. Right? This isn't about security. This isn't about building robust networks. This is all about geopolitical, racist horseshit by politicians that don't even know what the fuck IPv4 is. But anyways, that's my opinion. Give us a plan. Give us a plan. You know what? I would love to sit here and argue about our plans. I just don't see them. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about the crackdown? What do you think about China cabinets? You know, cabinets have doors. These don't have doors. There's no doors here. not even just that it's not a China cabinet, it's just not a cabinet of any sort. What is it with Chinese people and China cabinets? Like, what are they talking about? What are they talking? Chinese people are weird. They're just weird. I don't know. Anyways, put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a dumbass. Just be a real Lutnick and put that strong comment with a thumb in it down below. As always, what I actually care about is Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com, free to end user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do in Durham, North Carolina. We have a class coming up on web scraping next week. We have more classes coming up. If you're interested, take a look at the schedule at silicondojo.com. Do remember, free to end user is not free. That's why I shake my brain nips every day. If you'd like to help support the project, there is a donor box link down below. If you want to put in a monthly recurring donation, that would be ever so lovely. Anyways, with that, see y'all later.